The ocean is a vast, mysterious frontier, and even though thousands of ships navigate its waters every day, from time to time tragedy strikes and leaves behind little more than a mystery. No wreckage, no survivors, just a haunting sense of what exactly happened. But other times, tragedy strikes and leaves behind a plethora of evidence, all pointing at sinister and unbelievable conclusions. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the infographic show's greatest mysteries. Today, we're taking a look at the ghost ship Orang Medan. Ghost ships have been a staple of maritime folklore for centuries, and something we like to pretend we no longer believe in. However, sometimes fate tests that disbelief, pushing back the boundaries of our knowledge and our confidence in science and reason over superstition. The Orang Medan is one of those tests, a mystery tempting us with the answer we may find too terrifying to accept. Reports vary on the start of the Orang Medan mystery, with some placing it in June of 1947 and others in February of 1948. Whatever the date, the saga of the Orang Medan began with an emergency distress call over Morse code intercepted by various vessels in the Straits of Malacca near Sumatra in Malaysia. The message was split into two parts, with undecipherable Morse code between each. The first part read, "All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead." Gibberish followed, though given the context of the second message, it may have been the failing attempts of a dying man to communicate, as the second message simply read, "I die." Nothing followed after this transmission, but two American commercial ships decided to respond. With the aid of British and Dutch listening posts, the coordinates of the vessel were triangulated, and a course was set. The identity of the stricken vessel was also ascertained as being Dutch freighter SS Orang Medan. The American merchant ship, the Silver Star, immediately made way for the coordinates, and several hours later the lookout spotted the Orang Medan. The ship was discovered to be drifting aimlessly, with no power to the motors and no visible crew, though there appeared to be no damage to the vessel. Pulling alongside it, the crew of the Silver Star called out to the Medan but received no response. Radio contact was attempted with some eerily silent response. Forming a boarding party, the captain of the Silver Star prepared to board the vessel. What greeted the sailors upon boarding the Medan was like a scene from a horror movie, and proved the SOS message to be very accurate. Dead sailors littered the deck of the ship, each man found with their faces frozen in wide-eyed horror and twisted in terror. Their bodies had begun to decay abnormally fast, and rigor mortis had locked their arms into positions that made it seem as if the crew had died fending off some nightmarish attacker. The single animal on board the ship, a pet dog, had not escaped the grisly fate and was found with a savage snarl frozen on its face. A further search of the vessel found the captain on the bridge in a similar condition, and the bodies of the bridge officers were discovered in the wheelhouse and chart room, perhaps trying to barricade themselves from whatever monstrous fate had befallen the rest of the crew. The engineering crew, also at their stations below deck, were discovered with the same frozen look of terror, arms stiff and fending off the attacker. Lastly, the radio operator who presumably sent the distress call was discovered still at his station, likely having died there just moments after sending the SOS. The Silver Star's search party made several notes about their discoveries aboard the Orang Medan. Firstly, not a single crew member had any visible injuries to speak of, though it was clear by their twisted expressions and frozen limbs that they had suffered greatly, perhaps even been engaged in some sort of bloodless violence. The bodies were also decaying much faster than they should be. Rigor mortis had locked limbs in place almost as if they had never had a chance to lose muscle control and fall to the floor. The rest of the ship was found in good condition, with no apparent signs of damage or disaster. Though strangest of all was the still operational boiler room. Despite temperatures of over 130 degrees, the crew felt a sudden chill in this location. Deciding to tow the ship back to port for investigation and salvage, the Silver Star secured tow lines when suddenly smoke was discovered below decks and in the number 4 hole. Fire quickly followed, and the boarding party made haste to their own ship before severing the tow lines. The moment the lines were cut, the ship exploded with a force so violent it lifted out of the water before slipping beneath the waves. Whatever secrets the ship may have held disappeared as it sunk, and the first official mention of the incident was made in Dutch newspapers in 1948, and later in a U.S. Coast Guard report in 1952. Publishing eyewitness testimony about the state of the crew, the report said that the crew were discovered, their frozen faces upturned to the sun, staring as if in fear. Their mouths were gaping open and the eyes staring. What could have taken the lives of an entire ship's crew so quickly without leaving any wounds behind? Some speculate that the cargo hold was loaded with potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin, which would have accounted for the sudden smoke and explosion, but neither would account for the crew, which is where some believe things got more sinister, as some speculate that the ship was secretly carrying cargo from Japanese military Unit 731, infamous for their chemical and biological experiments during World War II. Unit 731 routinely carried out horrific experiments on live American and Chinese POWs, including once tying prisoners to stakes in concentric circles around a live grenade, which was then exploded. By studying the wounds suffered, the Japanese honed their surgical skills and learned to make better anti-personnel explosives. Some allege that the Orang Medan was carrying equipment or personnel from Unit 731 when suddenly an accidental release of some ghastly chemical or biological agent affected the entire crew. As wanted war criminals, any surviving members of Unit 731 may have had motivation for keeping the ship's identity a secret, which would account for one of the most contentious pieces of the Orang Medan account. The ship was never listed on any known registries at the time. Skeptics also point out that the Silver Star was also not known on any registries, though this is inaccurate as the ship was in fact at the time operating under a different registration, the Santa Juana, after the Grace Line Shipping Company bought rights to the ship and renamed it. Many skeptics still disbelieve the case of the Orang Medan, yet if the ship was in fact carrying secret and dangerous materials, it would certainly have been prudent to keep its name off official records. Most curious of all, however, is that the ship was mentioned in a private letter years later by C.H. Mark, the assistant to the director of the CIA. The letter, which was declassified by the CIA only recently, was addressed to an unknown individual whose name remained redacted and is dated December 5, 1959. In the letter, Mark explains the events from discovery of the clue to the mysterious explosion, followed by the statement, "I feel sure that the SS Orang Medan tragedy holds the answer to many of these airplane accidents and unsolved mysteries of the sea." Mark also goes on to highlight what he calls alarming passages in Old English chronicles and talks about the sightings of huge fiery spheres rising from or disappearing into the sea by ship captains and crews. Most chilling of all, however, is the question Mark poses to the unknown recipient. Do you think something from the unknown is involved? At the end of the letter, he then asks the enchanting sea, what terrifying secret does it hold? I feel sure that the SS Orang Medan tragedy also holds the answer to this secret. What exactly did Mark mean by something from the unknown being involved? What secret was he inferring to? Why did he place both in quotation marks? Why was the assistant to the director of the CIA concerned by a simple ghost ship story? And who was this mysterious recipient whose identity the CIA has kept classified? If the Orang Medan was nothing more than a tall sea tale, why was the most powerful intelligence agency in the world interested in the story? Why was the CIA interested? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, The Cannibal Island, Real Life Battle Royale. Thanks for watching, and as always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.